Okay, it's the first time I'm happy that we got a flat because I could get to test my little e-pump.
Hey guys, Alex here, and as a bike mechanic, I'm always interested in testing and trying out new gadgets and tools. And one thing cyclists experience that is not very pleasant is having a flat tire. So that's why we carry a saddlebag with some tools, spare tube, and something to inflate the tire, hand pump or a CO2 cartridge. And now you have a third option that are these mini e-pumps that you'll find in the market. And I've been looking into them for quite a while. So Cycplus sent me this one. This is the AS2 Pro. They also do the AS2. The only difference is the gauge. So this one has a gauge, the Pro has a gauge, so you know how much PSI you have in the tire and also how much battery. They also make other e-pumps, even for motorcycles and bigger pumps, but these are specifically for cycling because they're very small. They can fit inside your saddlebag. I chose the Pro instead of the AS2 because I really think the gauge makes a difference. I want to know how much PSI I'm putting in there, and it's pretty precise. At least on their website it says it's a plus minus 1 PSI, and the downside is very little. It's 20 grams heavier and it costs a little more, 15-20 bucks. As of now on their website, the Pro is $98 and the AS2 is about $15-20 less. A little bit more on the specs is this can inflate up to 120 PSI. That's pretty high. I usually have a 28 millimeter tire on my road bike and it's tubeless, so I'll run 70 to 80 PSI. And to inflate to 80 PSI, it would take about 50 seconds to a minute. It also charges pretty fast. In about 30-40 minutes, you can charge the battery. And in their website, you'll see how many charges you can do per charge. I'm gonna try it here and we can test it out, how many tires we can inflate in one charge. I believe we can do it 2 for sure. Let's try 3 tires. And it's pretty simple to set it up. You just press and hold to turn it on, and plus and minus to select how much PSI you wanna put, and then just press it once to start inflating, and you can press it again to turn it off, or as it reaches to the desired PSI, it will auto stop. So in the box comes a few accessories, an adapter, for example, if you want to fill ball with air, an extender for some valves that are difficult to reach, cable to charge the pump, little bag here in case you're going to put the pump in your back pocket and it rains. It's not waterproof, so you want to protect it from water. I leave it inside my saddlebag, so that way the saddlebag will protect from water, so it's safe there. Now, one thing for sure I use is this silicone case because it protects from the heat, because this small pump will heat up pretty quickly and it gets pretty hot. So you don't want to burn your hands, so I definitely recommend using their silicone case. For my saddlebag, I use one from Lezyne, Katie saddlebag. It's a pretty minimalistic saddlebag where I can fit my tools, I fit spare tube, and I use those ultralight just to save some space. And I used to use a CO2 and the charger and of course the levers. With this mini pump, I can remove this 2 CO2s and the charger and just have the pump in there. So let's take this pump to the test. Let's try to see how many tires we can inflate and how long does it take. Okay, so let's test it with this tire here with this bike. This is a Pirelli P7, 28 millimeters with regular tubes. One thing to consider is if you have tubes that have resin stem here on the valve, they sent you a hose like this one that is easier for you sometimes to attach depending on the bike, but also to avoid the heat of the pump melting the resin on the valve. So this is a metal one, so I don't have to use this hose, but if you do use a tube that has a resin valve here stem, they recommend you using that little hose because it gets pretty hot. Also in the kit, it comes with an adapter for the Presta or the Schrader. So to turn it on, just press and hold to turn on the little pump. Then you put the amount of PSI you want to put. We're going to put here 80 PSI. then you insert it, and you have to insert it really deep here with the press the valve, and then just press, and it's gonna auto stop when it reaches the desired PSI. Boom. 80 PSI in the tire. Be careful when you close the valve, it's gonna be pretty hot. You might wait a little or use something to close the valve, or just throw a little bit of water just to cool it down. Also, here in the tip, it's gonna be pretty hot. The silicone case works great. Don't feel any heat here around the pump. So we got one tire inflated. Let's deflate it and do it again. All right, second tire inflated here. We still have battery, so we can try it a third time. Okay, let's go. Third inflation. Inflation? All right, 3 times. I feel now that the pump is getting warmer, getting hotter, but it's still manageable. And we still have a little bit less left of battery here, so let's see how much we can get with the little bit of battery that we still have. All right, that was pretty much it. Put 10 more PSI. But it's always good to have a little extra, right? And I think results will vary depending on the temperature, tire, tubeless. I think you might require a little bit more air, also the life of the battery, but I could easily here put inflate 3 tires. So it's like taking 3 CO2 cartridges. So this is great. Instead of carrying 3, you have this mini pump here, and it works great. And actually, testing this pump, I taking on in my saddlebag. On a group ride that we did in the weekend, there was a guy that got a flat, and it was the first time I was happy we had a flat because I was able to test it on the road and see if it worked.
Works.
So this pump is not extremely cheap, not extremely expensive. Maybe if you go to the CO2 way, it's a little bit more budget friendly, depending on how many flats you experience a year. So you have to do the math. But I wouldn't look much into this pump as trying to save some money, but more into the convenience. And one thing I really like of it is the control. So you can turn it off and on. The CO2 usually, if you have something wrong in the tire or the valve is not working properly, you give it a burst, it inflates in seconds. But if something goes wrong, there you go. You lose the CO2, and then you might have a second chance if you're carrying a second cartridge. This pump, if something is going wrong, you can turn it off, try to adjust it, try to fix it, and then turn it back on. So I like that idea. One thing that is very good for this pump is if you're gonna travel with your bike and you can't take the CO2. You know, right? You can't take CO2 in your luggage when you're flying. So this, we talked to TSA, and this is permitted as for now. Never took in a trip before, but as they shared with us, it is allowed in the luggage. But for sure, that's a great plus if you're traveling with your bike and you can't take your CO2. You might take a hand pump, but if you want something convenient, light, and very practical, it's gonna be very useful on the trip. So let me know what you think about the mini pump, and if you're interested in purchasing one, I'll leave a link in the description. It is an affiliated link, so it is a way for you to support the channel, also get a small discount there. But if you're interested, definitely check it out. Well, I think this is pretty much it. And as always, guys, I'll see you on our next ride experience. Ciao. Silicone? Silicone. Silicone. Silicone.